Good evening. I call this meeting to order at 5 p.m. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, roll call. Let the record reflect that Director Hayes is not in attendance. I have a little bit of an echo. Thank you. All right, moving on to approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, I would like to remove item 6C, and that was the surplus property for Meadowbrook Dairy. That was surplus years ago.
Got it. All right. Do I have a motion to approve with the changes?
I'll move the agenda with the change.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, moving on to public comment. Don't see, oh, hold on. Hey, you're just in time. Peter, do you have a public comment? I just started that section. I do. Sorry to catch you off.
I don't have, I have a comment about agenda item 6D. I don't really care about this agenda item, which is why I'm making my comment now, as opposed to when it comes up on the agenda. I would like to think that none of your constituents care either. To me, the biggest issue is that so much time has been wasted discussing whether or not, really, Director Phillips is expensing too many things, but we're talking about a tiny amount of money, a few $1,000s, right? Is $5,000 too much for one board member to expense in a year? That's kind of the question, right? Whereas we were willing to spend no time at all, essentially, skating through the proposal, discussing how much money we were going to spend on the wells that we put through. Was that the right decision? I don't know, because honestly, it could have used some more discussion. But no, we just skated that right through without any discussion. But thankfully, plenty of time to discuss at public expense whether or not a couple $1,000s here or there between the board. It's just ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All right, do we have any members of the public online, or are those all? Okay, great. Thank you for checking. All right, so we will move on to community reports. I don't have any members of the community, and then none online either, correct? All right, great. Thank you very much. All right, so moving on to item 3, consent items. Does anyone have anything they would like to pull? No? All right. I will motion to approve the consent items.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. So no matters removed, so we will move on to item 5, presentations and appointments.
Jordy's going to make the introduction.
Thank you. I don't know, could you all hear me? Is this on? Are we on?
Very.
Yeah, great. Great, well, thank you. Tonight we have a presentation with Mojave Water Agency. I think we have Kathy Hoffman, if anybody's familiar, face. She's our Division III director over with Mojave Water Agency. With her, we have Wesley Massall, who's, I believe it was a couple years ago, I think he was fairly new with the agency, presented for High Desert Mountain Water on the recharge. So get to see you here do another presentation for us. So with that, I'll kind of leave it to Wesley.
provide his presentation on the state water project. Thank you.
Great.
All right, hello everyone. Is my presentation, it's up there, okay. So this was, Kathy asked me to come just give a general introduction to the state water project for educational purposes, I guess. I'll go quickly. My understanding is you guys have quite the agenda in front of you tonight. So yeah, it's called Get to Know the Flow, an Introduction to California State Water Project. Please interrupt with questions as I go if something comes to your mind. But if you look at your tax bill and you see MWA 1 and MWA 2A on your tax bill, that money supports Mojave Water Agency's fixed costs or access to water and the infrastructure to move water down from the Sacramento area down to our service area for imported water supplies. So State Water Project is a complex system that makes excess water supplies that naturally occur in Northern California, where there's a lot of water down to where there's scarce water here in Southern California. It's a mix of hydrology, infrastructure, regulatory restrictions, system demands, and politics. And it all wraps up every single year in a specific allocation for the State Water Project. And that's the amount of supply that's available to people to import to supplement agricultural and urban uses. So general overview of the system, there's 29 different state water contractors, as you can see up there, that are all the way from north of the Sacramento Delta down into San Diego. MWA has the 8th largest Table A entitlement, which is amount of water that's available to us through the project each year at 89,800 acre feet. And about 54% of the total yield of the project is south of our service area. So the aqueduct moves through the water through the high desert down into the LA basin. So in a year like 2023, where there was 100% state water project allocation, they're able to move about 4.1 million acre feet of water through that system. An acre foot of water is about 325,000 gallons of water. So it's quite a bit of water is moving through that system every year. And the aqueduct moving water from the Delta down to the LA basin is about 450 miles of infrastructure. So general overview of the system. Up at the top, you have the Feather watershed and the Lake Oroville Reservoir. Then through the Sacramento, down the Sacramento River into the Delta area and the Banks pumping plant. Then it moves into the actual California aqueduct and it begins its journey down through the state. So Central Valley and then in over the Tehachapi Mountains and then down into Southern California. So the Upper Feather watershed and Lake Oroville Reservoir is up there in California. That's where the precipitation happens, the snowpack that melts, and that's where your water supply actually occurs. It's then stored in Lake Oroville, which was constructed in 1968 and has a storage capacity of about 3 million acre feet of water. And that's the largest state water project facility. Oh yeah, I forgot I'm not controlling up here, so you're trying to keep, I was like, why is that different? Aha. All right, figured it out. So, yeah, press it one more time. Yep, there we go. Okay, so the snowpack and precipitation, like I said, happens in the northern Sierra Mountains. The West Branch, Middle Fork, and North Fork of the Feather River collect all of that precipitation and runoff. And then it's stored in Lake Oroville behind that reservoir. And then it's released through the Feather River down into the Delta. All right, next slide. So the Delta area and Banks pumping plant is located, just west of Sacramento. And so the Banks pumping plant was constructed in 1963, and it has a flow capacity of 14,899 CFS and a vertical pumping capacity of about 250 feet. So it lifts water out of the Delta up into the aqueduct. All right. So the Delta area and the Banks pumping plant, I like to refer to as a regulatory spaghetti bowl. So when you talk about all of the issues that are happening with fisheries and water quality concerns and impacts on the Delta, this is what This is where the magic happens, I guess. There's many different regulatory frameworks that are in place. There's voluntary agreements, biological opinions, incidental take permits, water quality objectives, coordinated operation agreements with the Central Valley Project and the federal side of water supply in the state. And then there's like weird things like a D1641 water year type that are all controlling how water comes in and out of the delta, how much goes out in the ocean, and then how much can be exported into Southern California. So it's, people have PhDs just understanding those things I listed off. It's crazy. But the big takeaway is the flow that comes into the delta from Northern California is always much greater than the flow that's actually available to be exported as supply. Yeah, and if you guys really wanted to know more, we could do a whole presentation on that, but I doubt you do. But also, if you want to, I'm here for it. But yeah, so then, all of these bulleted lists that I went through the voluntary agreement, those are hundreds of pages of documents. So, yeah.
No, I mean, how much more water?
Oh,
So like 80% goes, 20% comes down here, 80%.
so we had flows this year because of controlling regulatory environments. It was called in excess conditions in the delta. So you had about 80,000 CFS of water flowing out into the ocean, and we were able to export between 5,000 and 3,000 CFS at a time. So it's massive, right? All right, so after it goes through the delta, it's stored in the San Luis Reservoir in the Central Valley area. And this, yep, okay, we caught up. All right, and this facility is, it's a spill and fill facility. So as water moves through the delta, it's stored there, and then wholesalers like Metropolitan Water District, Mojave, they understand the demand for imported water in their service area, and then they start to take delivery of that water. So it moves down the aqueduct for, ag purposes, municipal, all of that. So San Luis Reservoir is a critical regulating function or reservoir in the system, and it creates that residence time for water so we can move it through the delta when the conditions are appropriate to move water through the delta, and then store it to meet demand in a given year. And it has significantly less storage space than Oroville. You can see it has 2 million versus 3 million acre feet of storage space. And then about half of that is shared with the Central Valley Project, so the federal side. So I kind of went through this slide already, trying to go kind of quickly. One of the major issues facing the State Water Project right now is subsidence that's occurring in the Central Valley because of overpumping. Some of the reports that have come out from DWR are quite alarming, and if they continue to operate with the constraints that are in place now, future subsidence scenarios could cut off all State Water Project flow to Southern California. However, there are some relatively simple engineering solutions to avoid that, so it's not the end of the world, but it will be expensive, and it will have an impact on Southern California water supplies. So the next up is the San Joaquin area and the coastal branch, and this is was built in 1997, so it's a relatively new part of the State Water Project, and it can take about 48,000 acre feet of water a year, and that feeds some of the coastal municipalities that are out there. And then, let's see, the Edmonston pumping plant, which is the big one. So this is at the end of the Central Valley portion of the California aqueduct. And this is what lifts water up over the Tehachapi Mountains. So it can flow about 5,000 CFS of water, a little under that, and it can lift water almost 2,000 feet up over the mountains. So that's why the power charges for State Water Project users south of the Tehachapi is significantly higher than people that are north, because you have to pay to operate that infrastructure. Yep, yeah, you can get a hold of them and go, which would be cool. I recommend it. The pumps are massive, like I've seen it before. Yeah, highly recommend if you're into that kind of nerdy stuff. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and so then through the high desert is the East Branch. This goes all the way down to Lake Paris, and this is kind of the part that's near and dear to the heart to Mojave. So as you can see, as we go down the project, the capacity to move water is limited. We've gone from 5,000 CFS at Banks Pumping Plant down to about 3,200 CFS at the East Branch. And yeah, so one of the kind of the big party poopers in the whole state water project system is Pear Blossom Pumping Plant. And it was constructed in 1973, and it basically drops the capacity of the East Branch Aqueduct from 3,200 CFS down to about 2,500 CFS. And this can act as a limiting constraint on Mojave's ability to get our water delivered in a year. There were some engineering oversights with some of the pumps, and if they turn them on to full capacity, they start to cavitate, and then they burn themselves out. So that is something that's been in talks about fixing for a long time, but no one wants to pay the bill. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And yeah, so that's it. I guess I went way faster than I thought I would. So I can go back and talk more about anything. Yeah.
I have a question. Did the the reappearance of Lake Tulare help at all?
I mean, it did for groundwater recharge in that year, but if you think about 100 years of overpumping from agriculture and what that does to water levels, and then what one wet year does, it's like a drop in a bucket. So, I mean, it was great, but
One abnormal year doesn't make up for all the rest.
it does not.
Okay.
No. Yep. It would take long, consistent change. Yep. So, yeah.
Any other questions?
What's the current legislation being proposed to fund that improvement up in the Bay Delta area to help get us more water down here?
I think you're talking about the rider bill for the Delta Conveyance Project?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe all that is, the intent of that is to streamline some of the environmental processes that have been kind of in this death spiral in courts.
Right.
So it's to free that up so it can move forward to the next steps of the project.
Yeah, a lot of the major water districts or water wholesalers have
Yeah.
been promoting that and the approval by voters when it comes around for the additional funding needed to construct that,
Yeah.
which in turn will be a cost to us, but we need the water.
Yeah, it's if you look at modeled climate change impacts on state water project reliability, right now the project says it can deliver 53% of the 4.1 million acre feet it's committed to in a year on average. If you do nothing and assume subsidence doesn't tank the project, but if you do nothing and don't build the DCP, by 2045, I think they're anticipating in the low 40s for yield, which becomes quite alarming. And you think about the revenue, like the tax revenue that supports access to that. And if you're only getting 40% or 30% of your original and expected yield from that project, the price per acre foot goes up quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
And so the DCP looks to add about 20% reliability back onto that. So you'd be around 60%. That's
Thank
kind
you.
of how the modeling is worked out. So it's seen as a reliability benefit. It doesn't provide more water or new water, but it keeps the water flowing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Very good presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so we will move on to item 6A, request to release the notice inviting bidders for the Civic Center and EOC project. Mr. Bartz.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this over to George. There's going to be probably our biggest item for some time. A lot of people involved with this, and I think this project so far is probably over 10 years in the making to get to the point where we're at right now. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to George. He's going to make the introductions, and we're going to kind of walk through the process of where we're at with that and talking about the project and the costs.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Bartz. A couple of months ago, we entered into a contract with the construction management team of CPM. They're here today, Mike Woods and Chase Cooper. For the last couple of months, they've been working with Steno Design, Sophie Steno, back over here in the corner, as well as the Wallace Group with Stephen Tanaka, who's been working with us on the bid documents. And we also have, I'm not sure if we have, but Matt Wilkins, who's been our project lead in the park projects that kind of tied into our Civic Center project. So over the last couple of months, we had 3 tasks that were prepared by CPM. That was the constructability review on the plans, the cost estimate review, as well as the bid documents review. We kind of went through the constructability, but I think the most important key into all this was the cost estimate. Knowing that the price or the cost of the project a couple of years ago was not going to be sustainable today. So that was important to kind of get that remedy and present it to the board. As you see attached in the packet, you have a project schedule as well as the cost estimate. Currently, we're at $16.5 million. We do have the $2 million grant from the Cal OES via FEMA for the EOC. We have the $500,000 contribution from the County of San Bernardino, and that leaves us with the remaining cost of approximately $14 million to be funded by the district. There's quite a bit to kind of dive into. I know we've kind of gone back and forth with purchasing equipment because of the lead time. There was a lot of mechanisms that kind of need to be in place before we can even move forward with anything. So we're kind of here to kind of have a discussion on why we are here, what this project looks like. We also have the schedule of the construction, and if there's anybody that's going to speak on the experience of these types of projects would be CPM, and it would be with Mike Woods and Chase Cooper. So I'll kind of hand it over to Don Bartz if he wants to dive into the other portion of it.
Yeah, I think we'd like to invite them up to give a presentation on how they calculated the cost. Just going back a few years, when we first started this project, we were looking at $4 or $5 million, and it was, would have been a great time to do it then, but it wouldn't be the project that it is now. But the costs have increased substantially over the past few years, especially. And with that, I'd like to invite you up and start talking about how you calculated the prices and where we ended up at.
Hello, I'm Mike Woods, principal at CPM, and
Chase Cooper, project manager, CPM.
we were brought on board about 2.5 months ago, and we were asked to review the estimate provided or generated by RLB, back in 2022. And as we all know, since COVID and a little bit before that, the escalation factor is a couple of years have been around 17 to 18%. So we reviewed the original estimate and we found some issues with it, and there was some missing products and equipment, and also we found some miscalculations in unit costs, which would be obvious, but some of them were 8 times lower than what they are today. So we reviewed the estimate. We put together a peer review, and it was decided it'd probably be better to just go ahead and double check all the quantities, takeoffs, make sure that everything was covered, and put today's pricing along with, we put an escalation factor of 5% to the midpoint of construction. So your total bid price out the door would be the $13,779,430, We've got the design contingency for the addendum that's going to be coming out in about a month. 2%, obviously the 5% escalation that I just mentioned. General conditions at 8% and recommended project contingency at 5%. We're hoping to not touch too much of the 5% contingency. So the overall project's about $16,535,316. So that's just an estimate of where the bids would come in at on bid day, which would be the $13,779,430. We try to be 10% high, so that way there's no oops or, oh no factor on bid day. I wasn't really prepared to do a presentation, I'm sorry. But, we can, if you got any questions, we can answer them. If you got any more questions about anything. Oh, one more thing I wanted to speak on is the lead times that George was talking about. Excuse me, there's a 4,000 amp panel and switchgear, right? And there's a 2-year lead time. So what we came up with is the overall project construction duration is 18 months. That doesn't work. So if we take 60 days to do submittal review to make sure that the products are all correct, we're already 2 months in, so that leaves 16 months. So that would extend your project out by, another 6-8 months, which the cost for overhead and profit and delays and, CM fees, everybody else's fees, we thought it would be best to procure directly with the district, procure the equipment so we can get it rolling during bid period and get it on board and have an owner furnished contractor installed so we get a jump on it. So that way we can get your project done on time and on budget.
So that's manufacturing time, basically? How long it'll take for the product to get to us?
I don't.
Is what you're talking about?
Yes. Okay. And what it comes to is you got to have a submittal, and it says, all right, you got to have all these kit of parts in here, and then they have to manufacture it. And they're still using the COVID excuse. And, I'm just going to throw out, we're doing a high school out in the desert, and it was a rebuild from the earthquake that happened in 2019 out at Ridgecrest. And we ordered the equipment, electrical equipment, December of 23, and our delivery date was May of 27. Okay, we were supposed to be completed this December of 25. So I don't know what else to call it, an acceleration fee. I've got another name for it. Extortion maybe, but of over $80,000, but it moved up 2 years. So I don't,
An expedited fee, basically.
you'd expedite, yes. So what you do is you get moved up into the front of the queue and you get pushed through if you pay this fee. Well, even though we did that, we still are waiting on DPLA panel, which will be brought in right around October 31st, Halloween of this year. But at the same time, some of the panels showed up with the wrong breakers and stuff in it. We got it fixed, but this is what we're, the contractors and everybody's up against. So we're trying to plan ahead on procurement to make sure that this doesn't affect your project. We can't guarantee it, but
By getting it in the door order and earlier, the better off we are.
And Chase, you can talk more about the dates. But if we get this ordered in 40 days?
Yeah, so we got with the design team as well as George and his team, and the way it's designed right now is the 24-month period. They have an automatic transfer switch built into it. So talking with the electrical engineer, we got a plan that we could pull that out, and then we're looking only at like a 12-month duration. So even if it didn't go standalone, which I still strongly encourage, we'd probably be pushing it, it'd be close. But I just see the huge benefit for you guys to procure that yourselves.
So part of the cost would be covered under the grant through the FEMA, and we kind of met with FEMA and the CalOES, and they confirmed that it would be totally okay for the district to procure any material and still be covered under the reimbursement for the grant funding.
I did want to add one thing to the RLB estimate that was done in '22. We aren't sure what documents they reviewed at that time. I mean, Sophie might be able to speak to that more. We got the plans 2.5 months ago. That's what we were using. So I don't know if there's been changes from '22 to now as far as what's included in the documents and not.
Yeah, there was that one change we had to make for FEMA
Great.
confirmation, where we had to split the building,
Raise
raise part of it and
Yeah, the grade
For the
change.
flood.
and then cut, yeah, the flood FEMA. So yes, they were.
That could play into some of the costs
Yeah,
too.
Well, and if I may, Sophie from Steno Design, that original bid that RLB put together was based on an original estimate a few months, within the year previous to that. So by the time 23-24 came around and we were discussing monies again, I said, well, with COVID and everything else, you probably need to jump that number up to above 14 million, which was realistic, because from then till now, you know, the marketplace conditions, pricing, the way politics, the powers that be. So you know, we worked very hard, and I know you have in consideration as well to possibly approve going ahead and releasing for official bids, just so that we can get the exact number. These guys have done a great job, so we're combing through the plans, we're getting everything in order, and we're really ready to go.
Yeah, and in defense of the RBL estimate, it's probably was 65% set that went to, you know, the county for review. So, and then all the changes that come back, you know, that, you know, you got to put a contingency in for that. But along with escalation, you know, in the FEMA with all the dirt that's going to be imported in or moved in. So I will say that if you don't move forward, things are not going to get cheaper. Okay, it will not. It might flatten out for a little while if we go into this recession. That, you know, are we going to go into it or not? But prices are not going to come down.
I just have one additional question. By buying it ahead of time, would that lock in the price as well versus waiting? It'll be at the
Yes.
price that we get it out versus
Yes.
going like a year out and going, oh, it's now twice as much.
So we've solicited 2 quotes to date on that. Both of the quotes that came back had a similar explanation that the ATS needed to be built out. So I know, Sophie, we're
Yeah,
still,
we're having our meeting tomorrow, sorry, Sophie again. We're having our status meeting again, our weekly status tomorrow. But the consensus was with the electrical engineer that we can, what was the note he said? He phrased it one way, build to suit, so to speak. So it's just something that I don't think the county will have an issue in us. We're still using the same components, they're just configured a little differently. And because it's easier for us to then have the material bought and delivered sooner than the way the plans are approved, it should not be an issue.
So it'll be a lock in
Incorporate
that
an
price.
manual transfer switch instead of an automatic transfer switch?
No, it would still be an automatic transfer switch. It's just not integral within the panel equipment. It'll be a standalone piece. That's all.
it was really strange how they built it into it, but, so it'll be standalone, and then the quotes also include the
Yeah,
generator.
By being standalone, it makes it a non-custom product. By
Correct.
incorporating it, it makes it a custom product. Well, same thing. You buy it off the showroom floor, or you take it over and, pay that extra money to customize your wheels. Same situation.
And we kind of understood that the electrical engineer designed it that way. It went to the county, and they responded that it was going to be the way it was presented now, or finalized. Now we're going back to the original design. I don't know if I'm
Right.
speaking out of line on that, but initially that's where we are disconnect with county, so.
So that's what turns on your emergency generator when the power goes out.
which is required since we received $2 million in funding for the Emergency Operations Center. So this is something that we really have to do with that. So when we over the past couple of years, we were looking in the $13 million range. That was the number that was floating around. If you look on page 94, without the contingencies and the escalation that potentially could happen, we were looking in the high 13s, almost $14 million. We were prepared all along for the 13. We do have some additional options for moving forward with this project. At this point, we're looking to go out to bid. We want to find out what those actual numbers are. We have options for funding. We have reserves that could be used. We also have the potential for interest rates going down, which I don't think the interest rates are going to stay where they're at. But we really have the time during construction to make that determination on which way we want to go. The majority of the money, we have the majority of the money to get near completion of the project. So if a year from now interest rates go down, we could refinance the loan that we have and possibly get a better rate and pick up the additional money. Or the dairy property, the Meadowbrook dairy property, Republic is going to be under construction. They were saying September, but I don't think it's going to be that quick on that. And we will be getting the royalty from that on the material that they bring into the site. They're permitted for 600,000 tons a year, and I believe we're at about $1.25 per ton is what we receive from material going into that site. So as far as funding this project into the future, our reserves are solid. I don't necessarily want to go digging into the reserves right away, but I would like to look at the other options as we get further into this. So it's not just a surprise where we have no options and have to go out and borrow money immediately to fund this project. I think we're in pretty good shape. If you look at the cost of the building is about $8.6 million for the building. The site work is $4.5 million. That's substantial. If you look on, I believe it's page 115, you can see that shows the parcel behind where the future park is going to be. And you can see that how the grading is going to be. That's the dirt that they're taking out of that back portion of the property is going to be used to fill the front part. And with the raising of the pad for the FEMA requirements, that did add some of the cost increases to the project. Not all of them, but a decent amount. Along with the extra year delay just for that, from the time we determined we needed to raise the pad to splitting the building in the middle to raise part of it. It just added up over time. So what we're looking for now would be permission from the board to go ahead and proceed with soliciting bids for this project. And it is request to release notice inviting bidders for the Civic Center and EOC project. So we would be doing that. There's a time frame on page 93. Right now we are on number 9. August 13th. August 21st through the 28th would be the advertising and then the bidding process from there. So staff's recommendation is that we do go ahead and bid this project, find out what the actual dollars are going to look like, and then make a determination from there on where to go. And as they said, it's not going to get cheaper. From day one when we started looking at this project, it's done nothing but going up. And talking about the potential for a recession, if you take a drive down Phelan Road towards Highway 395 and look at the millions of square feet of construction, the buildings, the tilt-ups going in out there, those aren't going to help our costs because that is going to continue. There's more projects permitted out there. So it's just not going to get cheaper than it is now.
All right. Any other questions? No?
I have a question.
Trying to go. Thank you.
This is a genuine question. I'm trying to understand. So are we submitting for bids? Are we saying we're procuring the things, the electrical stuff that we need? I'm just trying to understand what we're asking for in the bids. That's my question. Are we doing it with or without procurement? Are we just doing the whole package and then saying maybe we'll take it out of the bid? Or are we, that was my question.
George, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, there's no procurement until the board makes a decision, and we'll bring that to the board for approval. But until there's a direction, then we'll be ready to bring that to the board. So there isn't no intent to bring anything to the board until a decision has been made. The only ask is that we go out to bid on this project, allow that 2 months of the back and forth with the pre-bid meeting, go through the process and see what those bids come in at. And then we'll bring that to the board for discussion. I think at that point then, the board will have that decision whether we move forward with this project and then procure the equipment on those two, which is the generator and the electrical, the switchgear and things.
Yeah, I did have a conversation with Director Hayes on this. He's not here tonight, but he said to put in his 2 cents, he would recommend moving forward with going to bid on the project.
Okay.
I know he's
thank
not here to vote, but
you. All right. You have question, comment?
Yeah, just a quick comment. Yeah, I mean, this is the process. We go out to bid, we find out what the true costs are going to be. I would assume that part of the contract we had with you is procuring all the bid documents and getting everything advertised and going through and back through that. So that's already covered in their contract costs? Okay. Yeah, then this way we'll know truly what the costs are going to be. When we go out to bid, and I may be using the wrong terminology, but I know there's bid bonds on different things. There's different language within the bid that once the contractor bids on that, it's reviewed, that we hold them to that, and that bond's there to help protect it, so we don't get into, if we approve the project, that there's not going to be all these extra overrun costs that go above and beyond contingency that aren't foreseen. So
you know, that's a great point. In our conversations and meetings with CPM, they were talking about a recent project, and the change orders for that project were, I believe, 1% or less than 1% is what they hit with that. Which, when you're looking at the contingencies, that's where that's built into that. So that's a pretty good track record on that for keeping the costs close to what the bids are.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Yeah, I just want to add that we've been working with Steve Tanaka with Wallace Group, who's really versed in this bid process, as well, working with CPM. So a lot of those questions have been asked. I mean, we've dived deep into this. We've back and forth with the team, and it's been discussed and addressed. If I can add that, Mr. Tanaka.
Yeah, yes, thank you. Yeah, and just kind of to add on to that, you know, we're using the district's boilerplate, which you should be familiar with, and it has all the public bidding requirements that you'll typically see. Yeah, and that would include bid bond, and then once we get underway, the performance and the payment bonds. Yeah, so it'll be a complete package, procurement package.
Time is sensitive.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments, questions? Do you want me to wait?
So the staff recommendation, staff requests the board approval to release the notice inviting bids for the Civic Center and Emergency Operations Center project upon completion of the constructability review and final preparation of bid documents. Perfect timing.
All right, thank you. All right, so at this time, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we put it out to bid.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, motion passes. All right.
Thank you. You guys can leave if you want. You don't have to. It's not rude if you leave and go home to your families.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
guys.
very much.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, so we will move on to item 6B, discussion and possible adoption of Resolution 2025-09, adopting the mitigated negative deck and approving the district's well number 18 and future well site project.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this straight over to Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Bartz. So the district is seeking to install a new well at one of the two proposed locations as part of our CIP. It's both going to aid in future demand, but most importantly, help us meet our chromium-6 mitigation. Our compliance plan was submitted last Friday. I'm not going to read everything through here, but basically, well 16 CEQA was run concurrently when we did well 15 as a backup. So what we've done is selected a site for well 18 adjacent to well 15, but also ran CEQA upon another site as a backup in case we don't like the formation we see, something is not yielding the way it's supposed to, or if there's water quality challenges. That backup site's located east of well 2, which is known quality and quantity of water. So what we're asking the board to do tonight is adopt the mitigated negative declaration and approve the district's well 18 and future well site CEQA project. We did have the biologist out today. We have no tortoises, no migrating birds, no ground burrowing owls, and also no nesting birds. So if the board were inclined to adopt CEQA tonight, work can begin at 7 a.m. tomorrow.
All right.
And we do have Caitlin here. If there's any questions on the CEQA, she is stuck in traffic, but on the phone if there's any questions.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I actually pulled over just because I was worried I would lose service in Cajon Pass. But if you have any questions about the mitigations and everything for the project, just let me know. Sean spoke about the different sites pretty well. The only constraints that this project really had that we identified were related to the backup well site because it's a little bit closer to residences and there are some jurisdictional features and there's a Joshua tree on the site. So hopefully the preferred site works out and you guys can get to work ASAP.
Nice. All right. Any questions? Comments?
No, thank
No?
you. I read the report. It's a good report.
All right. I have no further questions or comments. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move that we adopt the resolution 2025-09.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Wes, and thank you, directors.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Safe travels.
Thanks.
All right. Now I gotta scroll.
Page 535,
Thank you.
because we are skipping item C.
Perfect. There's a number box out there,
What?
535.
Oh, if I can just type it in.
There you go.
You're just
Technology.
You're skipping the 300 pages of
Love
CEQA.
it. Perfect. All right, so we skipped C, so we are moving on to D. Further review and possible action regarding Resolution 2025-06, establishing policies for board member compensation, reimbursement, and ethics training.
Yes, I'm going to turn this right back over to the board.
All right. All right. So before we begin discussion on this item, I would just like to take the time to address Vice President Phillips' director's comments from last meeting. I would like to thank you for being honest and expressing your feelings and concerns about the questions and comments related to director's stipend and expense reports. I do believe that all members strive to seek knowledge and additional training to help them be a better board member and serve the CSD. And I also don't think that anyone should apologize for giving their all when it comes to serving their community. All directors should serve with integrity and be held to a higher standard while being an elected official. That being said, I do not believe that you were singled out or targeted in your position. It is all our responsibility to follow board policy. In this case, Resolution 2025-06 gives us policies on board compensation, reimbursement, and trainings. We have budget limits, daily limits, eligible expenses, et cetera, that govern how we spend the monies budgeted for the board of directors. Therefore, if any director goes over the allocated amounts for stipends or expenses, policy states that it will need to come to the board for approval. Now I will open the item for discussion. I know that you had a couple of things that you had questions on.
Yeah, I did. I basically asked to bring this back before the board because I know there were some comments, not only from Deborah, but also Director Hayes possibly too. So I think this evening, I'd like to have a full board when we discuss this, to be open and transparent and get everybody's input and stuff on the resolution. I'm in agreement with 90% of it. I think there's some things on there that could be discussed and talked about, and if one of us is so inclined to make a change, we'll make that request in the terms of a motion, and then the board will either move forward with it or they won't. So that's the intent of why I brought this back to the board.
Okay. So do you have particular sections that you wanted to change from the last time that we had voted it in?
Yeah, I wanted to discuss them with the board, so.
We're going to discuss it tonight. with
Well,
the
I'm
board.
not going to discuss it tonight without Director Hayes here.
Okay.
I have no further
Do you have
comments,
any-
thank you.
Okay. Gina, do you have any comments or suggestions?
I was good with the resolution that was presented last time. I'm fine with it.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm with Director Hayes, not Hayes, Director Snyder. Sorry about that. One of the things I'd like to see changed, the daily meal limits. There are amounts based on cities and how much per diem is. If we can find that information out. I know it's more than 100 now, and it's based on city, and it's a federal standard. It would be good to lean into. Outside of that, I'd like the rest of the discussion to happen outside, but that data needs to be brought forward.
Okay, so daily meal,
Daily.
do we have an amount in here specifically? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, specific.
There's a $100 amount daily.
And there's actual federal standards.
Do you remember what
lean into.
section that is?
2.3.4.
2.3, thank you. 2.3.4, meals.
I just know there's a federal standard we can lean into. It's
Yeah,
based on
we'd
city.
be happy to look into
Yeah,
that.
it's based on city. I don't remember what department that is. If I remember, I'll send the information to you.
Okay. Okay, so 2.3.4, looking at daily meal.
Federal standards. Based on city.
So looking to change the word to dependent on where we're at, the amount would change?
There's a general range that they're in, and we can say it's based, it's each one, they've narrowed out, like LA is this range for the LA area, and then so much for San Francisco area, so much for New York, so much, and it's based on the region and what how much the dollar goes there. Some areas, it's a lot less because the dollar goes a lot farther.
Okay.
There's a standard.
Did you look up to see what our region is? Is that where?
No, I just remember when I was with Head Start, we used that standard to go by. So it's prior knowledge.
Okay.
So it could be $100.
It could be. I remember one of them was like 98 for one city, not here, but I remember one of them was 98, and that was back when I looked at it a long time ago. So it's based on, and it adjusts each year. But it's a number we could lean into.
So just for clarification, are you saying look into the San Bernardino amounts or
No,
based on
just
where the
based on
conference
where
is?
the
Okay.
conference is at, 'cause that's where the number would be based on. Is each region has its own. San Bernardino is going to be a lot lower than, let's say, San Francisco.
Could we do some research and bring back a range?
Yeah.
So every time somebody goes to a conference, it's
That
not a
would
different amount?
Yeah.
I think that would lead to confusion.
Yeah, I
but
was
if we
thinking
could-
that it should be an average,
Yeah, if we
not
could
dependent
bring
upon
those
where
back and
you're
the board
at.
could choose
Yeah.
the average.
But then we know where the standard somebody else has applied, not just guessing out of the blue.
Okay. All right. Nobody has any comments on the category A and B section that we talked about? You know, whether meetings qualify for, remember how we changed category A and B meetings?
I was good with A and B. It was kind of clear.
I'd like to go back to what it was. Otherwise, I'd like the discussion to remain, like Director Snyder said. So other than that, I just wanted that data to be brought into the discussion at that time, because it's not data that we have available.
Okay.
That's
Now,
all I was adding.
What about data for the amount? Like the expenses amount?
Oh, the $5,000 amount?
Well, we're not at 5,000 right now.
No, but I'm talking about the exact number you're looking at?
Correct.
Changes? If we get the changes of what they've changed for from like every 5 years now, like from 2015, 2020, and current. So we get sort of a jumping of how things have shifted.
Are you talking to, like, in relation to CPI?
Yeah.
Yeah, for like the CPI, but how much the conferences have shifted in cost? We know how much each conference has shifted, and how much the hotel rooms have shifted in cost. So we can get an idea of what the trajectory is of where they've gone. So we can see where $1,000 went this far this time, it's only going this far now. So we get sort of an idea of how it'll cost in the future.
Wouldn't you just need to know what it is today? I don't know why you need to compare to.
Because prior that we were able to do, let's say in $5,000, we were able to do 3 conferences easily. Now it might cover only 1.5. That's why. So you can get a historical reference to where that $5,000 was based. And that $5,000 amount was set a long, long time ago.
2017.
So we're looking 8 years.
Right.
And in those 8 years, that $5,000 went a lot farther 8 years ago than it does now. So let's go back to 2017, the 8 year for the starting date, where it was, let's say every 2 years going out from there. So we get a sort of a stepping of how it stepped forward. So that we know that we're not limiting somebody simply because inflation has happened.
Yeah, if we could narrow that down to just maybe 2017 and now, because there's some anomalies in there with the COVID.
Okay.
Being on CSDA, I see the cost of the conferences and the what it costs to actually put on a conference. And some of the prices were locked in 2 years in advance. And now you're starting to see those increases. So I think you should see the start and end date would probably suffice. The rest of it is not going to make sense.
That's true. That works. This is where it was at when the 5,000 was set versus what you can do with it now.
Okay. So I'm just going to point this out since it's glaringly obvious right now. You don't want to vote on this because Director Hayes isn't here again. That's twice. So just to make point, the current resolution that is effective right now says that each director gets 1/5 of a pot, which is $15,900, which means any consent item that comes across the board right now for a director that is over $3,180 will get pulled and have to be voted on if you do not want to have this conversation tonight and vote on this. As long as everybody's okay with that.
We don't, between now and then, we don't have anything really coming forward. The next major conference isn't until the beginning of December.
Okay.
I do have one more question.
Go
So
ahead.
how many conferences are there in a year?
There are a number of different conferences, different organizations. You have
For a board member, though? I mean, I know there's other conferences,
yeah,
but
yeah. We've had board members attend like the Aqua Conference, the Association of California Water Agencies. They have an annual conference. They have minor conferences, but I'll just hit the big one. You have the CSDA conference, which they have the annual conference, and then they have the Leadership Academy and some of the other things that board members do attend during the year. You also have California Rural Water Association is one, and I think Mark Roberts actually attended that one. But those are the main ones. We don't do the League of Cities or anything like that, but it is mainly the CSDA and the Aqua conferences. And if I'm missing one, somebody speak up, but I believe those are the ones.
so there's more than 3 in a year, is what you're telling me?
Well, there's annual conferences, and then there's conferences which are sometimes mid-year, like 6 months, and they might have workshops. And CSDA has, I'm going back to them because I'm more familiar with that one. They have the Leadership Academy. They have a number of different ones during the year that you can attend. Legislative days, those type of things. So it's not just the conferences, but these are all kind of lumped in together as conferences.
And the AWWA conferences.
AWWA, yes.
Okay.
And I forgot the CPRS, the California Park and Recreation Society, is another conference, since we do cover parks too. They're actually pretty good. If you want to see
I'd be
the
willing to bet that one would probably be interesting.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
I'd love to hear the feedback from that one.
All right. Looks like you have a lot of work ahead of you. All right, moving on to 6E, update on district projects.
Thank you. I would think we covered the Civic Center project a little bit earlier this evening. The Phelan Park enhancement, that is the pickleball court community garden project. Believe they were out here a couple days ago staking for the temporary fencing for the project for phase 1. They should be mobilizing here in the next couple of days, if not beginning next week, but we're still target to be completed by the end of November on that project. So we'll see some activity. Our concern initially was protecting or keeping the grass area open for the public for movie nights, but that's kind of gone and passed. So now it's all free range. So I guess we got Jen here that's kind of managing that with our park supervisor. So nothing more to add with the enhancement project. Phelan Park expansion, the 14-acre project. The Board of Supervisors have finally approved the NOD at the August 5th meeting. We do have that in hand. We received that today. That is now going over to RCA. The engineer prepared the report, the mitigation report on the Joshua trees. We will be then coordinating with the Fish and Wildlife specialists, the environmental scientists, Eric Weiss, then also meet and re-engage the conversations with Burns and McDonald. They are the Puzzle Canyon conservation banking versus paying for the Joshua tree mitigation. We could look at an exchange with Puzzle Canyon. Puzzle Canyon is on the LA County side of the district. So there are still land available. My concern was, from January till now, that a lot of that would already been spoken for. The land is, there's plenty more available for banking, so we didn't lose that opportunity. So we'll have that discussion once we get into the mitigation with the report. With that, I have nothing more to report on the Phelan Park project. If you have any questions.
They'll be under construction here shortly. Come on by.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Are we going to have a groundbreaking for that?
No, we're going to do like a
Ribbon
ribbon cutting ceremony when it's done.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. All right, so we'll move on to committee reports. Engineering.
Yeah, we met. I brought my wrong folder, so I don't have them, but what I can recall from my collective memory, we talked about the well project. And then I believe there was solar on there as well.
It's
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Staff is investigating solar offsets in conjunction with our 4 highest consuming sites. So like well 2, site 2, well 15, and the feasibility of basically equipping those with solar to offset daytime production.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Yeah, and then they were going to bring back the information on that and what the cost would be. They just want to do the initial presentation on everything.
I met with SiteLogic today. We're just finalizing their proposals, and that should be before the board here the next couple of weeks.
All right, thank you, Sean. I have nothing further to report.
Thank you. Finance Committee?
We met and we reviewed the quarterly financials. We also were presented on a new credit card processing option, one that we have to do. Something has to happen, so I think that's coming later, though.
Yeah, it's actually, the costs are going to be identical.
Pretty much the same, but new company processing it, yeah.
Okay. Good. Legislative?
We meet next month.
All right. Park and Rec, we met yesterday, and went over, we got the totals for the attendance, and the painting classes are a hit, because those are our biggest attenders. So all of the park activities are doing really well and really well attended. Anything else? And the swing. We're getting a new swing, an inclusive swing.
I must say, everybody's commenting about the painting and posting about it.
Oh, good.
Online, I've been seeing the happy faces.
That's good. All right. And waste and recycling?
I have nothing to report.
All right. Item 8, staff and general managers report. Anything to add?
Nothing more to add tonight.
All right. We will go to directors' reports. Director Snyder?
I don't have any reports this evening, thank you.
All right.
I don't have anything to add.
All right.
I attended the Association of San Bernardino Community Services Districts, and we went over recharge in the San Bernardino Basin.
Great. And I attended the Mojave Water groundbreaking ceremony in Phelan. That was the beginning of the Mojave River Pipeline Traveling Screen Project. Boy, say that 3 times fast. And that was great to see everybody out there and watch our own Kathy Hoffman stick a shovel in the ground. It was great. And then I had my ASB CSD board meeting last night, and they let us know that Richard Hall had passed away. So just wanted to let everybody know. All right, so we will move on to item 10, correspondence and information.
I also have 2 flyers that went out in our bills. Sorry. We had a leak flyer and our community cleanup and free tire day event that is taking place on September 13th.
Great, thank you. All right, and review of action items. Were there prior meeting action items?
We completed both of those.
Perfect, and current meeting.
The current meeting regarding the resolution 2025-06 to research the pricing on the mills to come to federal standards and the cost comparison for the conferences now versus 2017. Was that it? I think that was all.
Yeah, and not only are we going to be comparing costs, but we're going to be comparing CPI as far as like how much money we should be making since 2017.
Okay. I will note that.
All right. So then we move on to 12, set agenda for next meeting, which is August 27th. And is Mr. Hayes going to be here?
I won't be here.
You're not going to
I
be
will
here?
not be here.
We do not have any items at this point. I don't think we have anything that's up yet, but we'll let you know. And if we do
Okay.
not have anything, we'll cancel the meeting if that's okay with the board.
Okay. Thank you. All right. And with no further business before the board, we will adjourn at 6:08 p.m. Thank you. What's that?